Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. I am Artsume Shae, if you didn't know already, and hi, welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be doing a nice little yap and draw. I think that's a fun one. I think that's one that kind of hybrids my art creation and art making with a lot of the things that I like to yap about. Funny enough, I feel like in the last one I can kind of, talk while drawing. I actually have a whole history of Twitch streaming, and that is oftentimes what I would do. But I do think that in terms of locking in versus, casually drawing and talking, that's kind of the difference there. So I was not as productive in working on my webcomic during that last video, so much so that I actually just took a speed draw from something else I was working on and putting it on top of there. So other than that, I think what I'll do from now on, I will probably take my drawings and work in progress videos and just apply it to the yap and draw element of it. So that being said, of course, as I mentioned, I do have a webcomic, and that's pretty much one of the major things that I invest my time in that I really enjoy. So if you're new here, I am a comic artist, I am a digital artist, and right now one of my big passions is my webcomic Space Ultima. Space Ultima, of course, being a fun sci-fi, adventure, superpower romance story that follows along a character who is really looking for more in life, and she gets just what she asked for. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out on my website, Artsume Shae. Also check it out on, a lot of the major platforms of webcomics, WEBTOON Canvas, Nomikami, Global Comics, and the like. So that is a little bit about me. And today, of course, we're going to be talking about not so much that. Like I said, I like to talk. I have a lot of different various interests, and some of those things I'm just going to be kind of rambling about today. If you hear some slight squeaking, there is currently an animal in my room who has a bit of the zoomies, so just ignore a little bit of those squeakings. But if you're interested in what I have to offer here, then definitely follow, like, and subscribe to the channel. You can find my art journey, my comic process, and a little bit of my life here on my YouTube channel. Getting started, I do want to say I really like, and I didn't know that this was kind of like a niche, untapped, not really genre, but subgenre that I didn't really recognize I was so into until watching a new show on Apple TV Plus called Widow's Bay. I feel like there are so many people who are glazing this show, and it's kind of news to me that so many people have been glazing the show. I kid you not, I didn't hear anything about it. I didn't hear a word about the show. I was so in the dark. And it wasn't until my husband watched one of Moist Critical's videos talking about the show, of course, bringing up the fact that the show is super good and it's another, Apple TV hit, and not even realizing anything about it. And so, speaking of, sometimes I wash my hands and I forget to put my ring back on. Anyway, I'm people are like, husband, what are you talking about? Where the ring at? Anyway, so I really did not hear a lot about this show, only to find out that the show, I want to say, released in May, and has recently wrapped up its season. Anyway, let me start over, but first of all, I've said this before, and I've said the gripes that I've had with Apple TV Plus, and that they have these sleeper hits, these shows that are so good, and they really just lean on like mass appeal and like word of mouth to get it out, because I personally saw zero press, zero. I think the show came out and then Apple was like, oh, by the way, this show's out. And then they went about their day. It's just so disrespectful, because also too, I mean, some people feel like when shows, movies, or media like really get the hype train going, people kind of eye roll at it, and it kind of takes away from its ability to actually get valid people and valid fans. So I do kind of understand that, but in a way, they really do understand the whole, like, oh, let the art speak for itself, which, you know, depending on what it is, it's kind of 50-50. But let me start from the beginning. Okay, so my husband finds out about it. He tells me about it. We watched the trailer. And honestly, even the trailer kind of didn't give me, it really kind of undersold the show. Granted, it's like, oh, this island has mysteries, this da-da-da-da. And so I was like, okay, like, still watch a trailer. Didn't really pull me, so I kind of had I don't want to say low expectations, I just had no expectations. So that being said, then it was like, what day was it? I think it was like a Wednesday. It was Wednesday night of this week. So right now it's Saturday, so I have since gone through the entire series, and I really wanted to talk about today because I don't want like all the stuff to escape from my brain. I binged it, so I honestly kind of want to watch it again. But anyway, so we watch it, and it was like kind of late. I had finished, you know, I was in my room working on the comic, and so I get to the point where I'm like, okay, well, I'm done for the day. And he was like, oh, do you want to watch like the first episode? He said, do you want to watch the first episode? It would not be just the first episode that we watched that night. So we watched the first episode. It was maybe 10. We get to episode 5 and it's like 1 a.m. Almost 2 a.m. That is how much that show really like stuck its claws into me. And like I said, you know, I'm sure there was an entire freaking ecosystem. The council met without me. Okay, the council, they converged, they had discourse without consulting me. I did not get the invite to the meeting. But the entire internet had been talking about this show since its release, and I had missed all of it. So if that gives you any of a reason to watch the show yourself, I highly encourage you to, because this is coming from someone who, even at the point I was watching the trailer, I still was just like, oh, okay, cool. And so I gave it a shot, and I was very, very happy with it. Okay, so what is Widow's Bay, without giving away too many spoilers, or really any spoilers at all, because believe me, I think by the time you finish the season 1, there's still going to be a lot of closed doors that need opening. So it follows along the protagonist. His name is Tom. He is the mayor of this kind of dinky New England seaside island, small town vibes. You get the gist. And honestly, and this is why the trailer, I feel like it undersold it, because this is a comedy. This show, the people in this cast of characters are hilarious. They are so funny. They are kind of the typical people you would find in a small town, like just kind of like oblivious, in their own world, you know, kind of clued in on the local happenings, very, very tight-knit small town vibes. And this is something that I don't think is a spoiler, because they give it pretty much in episode 1, but Tom is not from here. Tom is not from this island, so he has a lot better of an idea of the outside world than the characters who live on the island, who were born and raised there. So, you know, no surprise by that. He has a son who, you know, he's in his teen years, and, you know, as many people who, you know, grow up in a small town, you especially a small town with nothing to do, you know, get adventurous, you get rebellious, and you have this like restlessness. So he is trying to make this island, since he's the mayor, he's trying to make this island, you know, better. And he wants this island to be a place that, you know, teens and people and tourists all want to go to. And it's when company is over, aka a writer from the New York Times, I believe. It is when a writer from the New York Times comes to write a tourism piece that it seems like everybody don't know how to act. I said to my husband, I said it was like that meme where it's like company is over or company is coming, you better get your ass together.
Company is coming. Get rid of the couches. We can't let people know we sat. The chairs need to be pushed in. There cannot be any sign of living in this house.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious, because like all of the people are just acting up, and they're acting up because there has been some very eerie, strange, and, you know, unusual happenings going on in this on this island, literally just up until the night before when the writer comes. So there are a lot of very odd things, and Tom is a skeptic. Tom is he is basically any like video, like especially if you watch I keep wanting to say Ghost Riders. Ghost Files. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I'm blanking. I love that show. I watch it every time it comes out. It's kind of like Shae from Ghost Files, which is also funny and ironic because during the show's press, Ghost File guys, Ryan and Shane, actually interviewed the main actor for the show. But anyway, so it's kind of like, you know, if you have a skeptic who is literally surrounded by believers, and believers of different tiers, different, like the entire spectrum, from the people who, you know, think that this might exist but don't want to rule it out, to the people who are like cuckoo crazy and they're like, this is going off. And of course that introduced us to one of the characters who he's kind of like, you know, in Jaws, the old crazy guy who's like, it's alive, it's coming to get us type deal. And it ends in a very satisfying way that really makes you want to keep watching. There are tons of homages to different suspense and horror movies in cinema history, TV shows, things like that. And something I saw someone said, and this will give you a perfect idea into what the whole kind of vibe of the show is. Someone said it is like Parks and Rec meets Stephen King. And honestly, I think that's a perfect description. I really like that description because it hits the nail on the head. I won't go too much deeper into it. Like I said, there are, you know, characters who, you know, they're witnessing very not cruel, very odd and unusual things. One thing I said, so this is my personal take on what I would relate the show to, what the comp is. It kind of reminds me, it reminds me of Gravity Falls for adults. And I paused the show. We were like a little over either halfway through the first episode or definitely into the second episode. And I paused it. I turned to my husband. I'm just like, this is like Gravity Falls for adults. And I was like, no wonder this is like scratching that itch for me, because I loved Gravity Falls. And obviously, if you watched it in like middle to high school when it came out, or of course you were a Tumblr girly, Gravity Falls was just one of those like comfort shows of mine. But it does kind of have that same sense and appeal where, you know, there are people who they see this place and they see some of the weird things that go on, but they kind of shrug it off because it's like, that's life. And then you've got these out-of-towners or these people who aren't from here experiencing all of the, weird and wacky things going on. And also, too, I do want to note that this show does have some, I would say, serious and very, unnerving elements to it in the sense of, actually being horror. There are, it's so funny because it balances it, right? How a lot of people criticized Marvel at a certain point where there would be this very serious, very kind of lore dump element introduced to the plot, and then you've got Tony Stark or somebody who cracks a joke that seems so, it just immediately removes you from the story. I would say that because this show establishes its comedic voice early on, it does a really great job of balancing it and introducing the comedy almost in mundane ways. Like I said, if you know, you know, and also if you don't, watch the show. But outside of that, I did really also like the first episode. I think the first episode did something that not a lot of shows lately have been doing, where the first episode, it gives you just enough. It definitely follows the whole show don't tell. And even when you hear, for example, the main character, when he says something, you can almost immediately tell that he's lying, but more importantly, he's lying to himself. There's elements of the unreliable narrator, and it's it comes into play when he has the side characters calling him out on his BS. But yeah, I thought that the first episode, it really did a good job of painting the picture without giving us a abundance of exposition, because sometimes the exposition is just okay, we get it. I could see what's happening and I can sense it even if I haven't quite placed it in my mind, but then you're gonna go and you're gonna tell me verbatim what to think when I already got. So, but yeah, it did do a really good job of laying the groundwork and being proactive with getting us set up. Because here's the thing too, throughout the season, you are uncovering a mystery, a variety of mysteries. And so when you're diving into this, you are going into it with curiosity because it hasn't been all laid out for you. So I really enjoyed that element. Another thing that I give the show its flowers for. Oh, there's a butterfly outside. Oh, that was majestic. Another thing that I really give the show its flowers for is the fact that this show is practically what we were supposed to get based off of season 1 of Stranger Things. So if you are a Stranger Things season 1, season 2 fan, and you believed in what the show was trying to set up, once again, it had its Stephen King influences. It had its, 1980s homage to the shows of, the thrilling and the supernatural and even this kind of mystery box that you, the viewer, had to unfold. This is almost what we, at least me personally, it's almost what I would have hoped that Stranger Things turned into as the seasons went on. Obviously, didn't turn into that. I'm not bitter. But, because also too, a lot of people may or may not know this, but Stranger Things was actually supposed to be an anthology. If it wasn't just the one season, it was going to be kind of this connecting thread of all these different weird and crazy happenings going on in Hawkins, in this small town, that then maybe even introduced, more questions and things like that. So, I mean, like I said, I think that this show, it really hits the nail on the head. It scratches that itch when it comes down to the whole, creepy, mysterious small town vibes. It also does a really good job of like kind of getting you in that like that Summerween type vibe. I really like how like horror movies set in summer, I find it very fascinating, and more fascinating than like a horror movie that happens just like any time of the year, or maybe even specifically like in the fall or something like that. Like summer, if you think about like the juxtaposition, I throw that word at you. If you think about the juxtaposition, summertime is the time when we're all outside. The days are longer. We are, according to culture, told the summer is a time to have fun and relax. And when something occurs that takes that away or is the opposite of what we're like supposed to be doing, that's kind of interesting. You know, so you obviously you have your Friday the 13th, your things like that. But also another horror movie based in summer vibe, Us. Because the family, they go away to their lake house, where the girl, of course, was it Lupita Nyong'o's character, she encounters her past, and that's when the unearthing of the others, of the doppelgangers, happens. So that happens during the summer. You know, you've got the carnival, the fair, the beach, the boats, and all these things are occurring in a time where it's supposed to be happy and fun and stuff. And I just think that that's kind of interesting. I like that like subgenre of scary movies. Also, I mean, heck, even if you think about scary movies that take place during Christmas, I mean, that's another one. Like the holiday scary vibes is fun because once again, and it's kind of like these times they border on fabricated fun. And I think people think about that more with the holidays than with like maybe summer. But like with the holidays, you know, it's very heavy on commercialism, but then even when it's heavy on commercialism, it also has a lot of nostalgia that comes with it. Like, the holidays when I was growing up, I love them. Even to this day, Christmas is like one of my favorite holidays because of the holidays of old, and things like that. So I think that when you have this kind of like scary, kind of like twisted, odd elements added to that kind of confuses like the feelings of the characters who are going through that. One of the movies I find that happens during Christmas that's a scary movie, Krampus, the one and only, of course. Well, I'm sure there's probably like, you know, C horror movies of Krampus, but the one that came out like in main theaters. And spoiler alert for Krampus, it's been out for a very long time. So I think I get like, what is it, the 5-year pass? But no, that movie, it ended a lot darker than I remember. I think recently I had rewatched it, because I think someone we were watching it with hadn't seen it before. And it ends in a way that is like sad. Very sad if you think about it, but like it doesn't end happy. And of course, if it's Krampus, it's probably not going to. All right, well, that was my yap for you today. I hope that you enjoyed it. Once again, like, you will not be disappointed, at least in the terms of, like, there being like non-stop things happening when it comes down to, you know, watching this show. It's very eventful, and they have a lot of mysteries to uncover. So I think if that's your cup of tea, if some of the things I've mentioned that they're like, if those are things that you like, then I definitely recommend giving it a chance. Another thing that I recommend you giving a chance is this channel. So if you like this video and you liked hanging out and listening to me go on and on about media, definitely like the video. And if you you are interested in hearing more of that, then subscribe to the channel in order to get notifications on whenever I post a video. You can also find me on Instagram. Instagram is pretty much where I exist the most. So that is Instagram at Artsume Shae. So check that out so that way you can follow and also get another way of getting updated whenever I go live with a video. And of course, if you're curious about the artwork that has been on display during this video, then that is none other than my webcomic Space Ultima, which you can read for free on my website artsumeshae.com, or even WEBTOON Canvas, Namikami, and Global Comics. Those are only places that I have it, so you can check them out there. Alright folks, I hope that you have a spooky, scary, fun summer. I will be continuing to have that, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!